Hey guys, welcome to Dare to Share with Mistie Layne. I am your host, Mistie Layne. This is a platform that encourages others to be that one, step up, share their raw, authentic truth with transparency so that our life stories can help educate each other. It provides awareness so that we can learn to judge less and mentor more. I am really sick and tired of all the judgment in the world, and it is my goal, my purpose to promote transparency so that we can understand that it's okay just to be who we are, just to drop the act, drop the facade, get raw, get real, and be who we are, and then learn to love and embrace that person, and then use our pain to help other people, or in other words, don't waste our pain. So that's what this whole platform Dare to Share is all about. I would encourage you to please go onto my Facebook page and join my private group. It's called #BeThatOne. You can find it right off my Facebook page. And I also ask that you take this time right now to share this out with all your family and friends. It only takes a couple of seconds to hit that share button. We have an amazing guest on here tonight that's going to be talking about all the woes that came with being a collegiate athlete, becoming injured, going into debt, and then starting entrepreneurship. And she's made it to the other side. She's successful. She has a large group that she manages. She's a CEO, an author, a speaker, a coach, a clarity coach, so much. But before we get to her, I do want to take care of a few things and ask that those listening that think that they may be daring to share and willing to come out with their story and transparency, if you want to be a guest, it's real easy. You just type the word guest in the subject line and email Mistie Layne at mistielayne.com, and I'll get you booked on the show. And also, if you want to get a copy of my book, because I am the best-selling author of the book, What Goes Up. This is a story about my life. I talk about all the adversity I went through, from perfectionism, all the pressure I put on myself, from medical school to crack cocaine addiction to negligent homicide. I mean, prison, things around my grandbaby who was born with a lot of, she had a brain injury due to lack of oxygen, and I blame myself for it. And she's since passed since I've written the book, so that part's not in there, but she did pass away in January, which is even more motive for me to get out here and really speak the truth and get people to open up and speak their truth as well. All right, you can find that book at mistielayne.com, on Amazon, all the bookstores, but if you want a signed copy, just go on mistielayne.com and order your book there. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Let's take a look and say hello to our people. Let's see. Hi, Miss Linda Campbell. Thank you for being here. Here's my faithful friend here, Miss Carol. Hello. Thank you, Carol. Abigail is dropping her links. So those of you, you're going to love her story. So just so you know ahead of time, all her links are right here in the comments section. She has an amazing podcast, which I was on her podcast last year. Hearts Unleashed. I was so happy about that. Hi, Sherry McQueen. Nice to have you here. Hi, Carol again. And then there's some anonymous Facebook users where for some reason I'm not seeing their name. It's only coming up as Facebook user. So I'm not sure who you are. Put your name in the comments so I can see who you are. All right. One more thing. We have to talk about our sponsors, because this platform is powered by sponsorship. And without the sponsors, this platform may or may not be able to be here. So I always want to give them a huge shout out at the beginning of the show. I ask that you contact these sponsors. There's text message, there's Messenger on Facebook, and there's also emails. Reach out to them just to get information. Let them know that you're hearing their ads. Let them know that you're seeing their products. If nothing else, just to get some information so they know that this being seen. If you could do that for me, that would be awesome. And give them a chance to explain to you what their entrepreneurship, what their businesses are doing for them. You never know. Their business may be something that you might want to get into one day. All right. So without further ado, let's take a second and thank our sponsors. Today's show is sponsored by Simple Changes from Wanda Reynolds. Make a simple change today for a healthier tomorrow with products like Simply Satisfy, which aids in gut digestion and curbs your appetite. Mental wellness is directly related to gut health, so keep a happy gut with Simply Satisfy. Then there's Simply Soothe. It helps relax your sore muscles and it supports your overall joint health. Simply Start is made from 100% organic hemp oil. It promotes your calmness, supports sleep, and maintains healthy joints. Contact Wanda Reynolds today through Facebook Messenger or at scdso.com/live life wonderfully. Health provides simple solutions to whole body health. To get and stay healthy, we offer Somaderm HGH Gel. Would you like to sleep like a baby and wake up rested? Do you want to feel maximum benefits from physical exercise? Do you want to burn through that afternoon slump with energy to last well into the night? Well, you can. And you may also experience 25 other whole body improvements with the gel. It's effective, safe, FDA registered, and very affordable. Diane has immuno boosters and keto support products too. Contact Diane Chasik at lifesmilehealth.com or text lifestyle to 64600 today. All right. Now, without further ado, we are going to bring on our amazing guest, Miss Abigail Gazda. Hi, Miss Abigail.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. This is a role reversal for us because you interviewed me last year a couple of different times.
Yes. Well, and when you were sharing your story, I'm like, I've heard a little bit about this, or I know what's in that book. And I actually see Jill on here. She's the best. And she said your episode is number 93 on the Hearts Unleashed podcast, Transparence Free, where you laid it all out. And I remember that.
Oh, my episode on your show? Awesome.
Yeah.
Number 93.
Right. So if people do decide to go to heartsunleashed.com, there's a search by title and they can just scroll right down to your episode and start tuning in.
Thank you for that. Awesome. That's great. Thank you. Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get this show up there too and get transparency out there even more.
Yes.
All right. Well, Abby, I like to start. Can I call you Abby or do you go by Abigail?
Sure, I say dealer's choice, whatever you love.
Okay. All right. Well, I like Abby. It's kind of cute. Okay. So let's start the show off by bragging a little bit and telling the audience all the great things that you have going on. Because I know you're busy. You got a new book out and you got a podcast. So take 2 or 3 minutes, talk about the things you're most proud of, your biggest accomplishments, and all your newest projects. Go for it.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. I love what you said about, being sick and tired of judgment in the world and the way that that's operating. And so I'd love to start by sharing my upcoming book that comes out on Thanksgiving Day called Alchemizing Judgment, A Guide Back to Love. Yeah. It's going to be a good one. I'm so excited. And so that one comes out on Thanksgiving Day. It's my 3rd book. And so I would say that that's probably my biggest accomplishment is becoming an author. I have my degree in physical education and health. I was an athlete my whole life, and that was my identity. And I thought that would be my identity forever. And it certainly wasn't. And that caused an identity crisis, which I know we're going to kind of talk about. But on the other side of that, becoming an author, becoming a clarity coach, a podcaster, all of that, I would say my greatest accomplishment is getting to impact people for the better. I like to say that my areas of expertise are emotional intelligence and subconscious reprogramming, and getting to witness people transform and blossom it's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. I have to just stop for a quick second because people ask me a lot, what's your favorite episode? And it's not that I have a favorite, but this is my 24th episode, but my most memorable episode is going to be one of the first ones. It wasn't the first, but in the first 5, a girl named Kristen Miracle, because it was her very first time ever to share. And I remember she had heard me in an interview with someone else about a year ago, and she actually reached out to me and we had a lengthy conversation on the phone around incest in her family, and her dad had been abusing her since little bitty. And she was just afraid to tell anyone. And we talked 2 hours a year ago, and she still was afraid. And she found the courage to become a guest on the show. And for the first time ever, she shared her story. And like you just mentioned, the transformation, the freedom that she feels, and the weight that was lifted off of her shoulders just by getting that out and saying, it wasn't my fault, just getting that off. So I love transparency because I witness every day what it does for people.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're on board with that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. just watching people's freedom show up and like then meeting them, right? The podcast is called Hearts Unleashed because it's about people living as their most authentic self.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like you said earlier, it wasn't always cupcakes and rainbows. So let's go back in time and talk about talk about where some of the adversity in your life started, and then we'll kind of weave our way through how you were able to come out of it and some of the tools you used, and then maybe we can give the audience some tips on what they can do. So let's go back to your college days and talk about what your dreams were, what your goals were. I think it was basketball you played, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So, being an athlete my entire life, I remember being even in intramurals in first grade, like the ball was half as big as I was. And, so, it was so much of my identity as basketball player and athlete and student athlete. And so, got to college, I walked onto the team. I eventually earned a scholarship, but, it was only in commitment and consistency that I was able to earn a scholarship eventually. But before I even earned my scholarship, I tore my knee, and I tore my ACL the night, the practice before my sophomore season started. And when that happened, I was in denial. So I went up for this layup and I heard it at the whole court. Everybody on the court heard my knee pop. And then the trainer comes out and does this one single, it's called the drawer test. They check if your ACL is in place, and it wasn't. And so they hobble me back over to the training room, and I'm still in denial. I'm like, I'll be all right. I'm fine. You don't know what you're talking about. And then after I was sitting there for about 30 minutes, enough time for my knee to swell. And so when I stood on my knee, it felt as if that whole knee capsule was just filled with jelly because it had already started to swell and everything. And so that was like the moment where I had to actually accept my whole season is over. And that was tough, and moved pretty quickly into surgery, probably a week or two later. But really, like, an injury hurts, and that's no fun. But it was really the whole loss of I'm never going to be the athlete I once was, and I was a very accomplished athlete, especially into high school, being able to play in college, like that felt really good, and I rested my whole identity on that. And so now to not have that, my sophomore year of college in general is to this day still the most depressed year, because not only was it sad, I didn't have the coping mechanisms, the proper tools to really get the support I needed to process what was happening. And then I was in such denial still that I went through 5 knee surgeries within 6 years because I kept trying. Yeah, well, I kept trying to come back, and I just tore it up worse, and none of it helped. And I didn't have that guidance that said, maybe you should stop. Maybe you should sit down.
Wow. So you felt like you could just push on, because you hear of Olympic athletes all the time that are injured that just push through the pain, right? Yep. So here you were just trying to push through the pain, and you were doing permanent damage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I even had teammates who had torn their ACL maybe in high school, but were still playing. So I had these great examples of success, but I was not listening to my body. And whenever I hear that someone's having a surgery, I'm like, rest. You have your whole life to have your whole life back. If it means a year of sitting still, then do that, because you don't want to wreck your joints and your body so you can live to 80 and 90 and not have those joints in different parts of your body.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm not one to take that advice myself. I just had my gallbladder out, and it's not, a long recovery, a week or two, but I couldn't sit still. I was up cooking the next day. My daughter called my boyfriend. She was so mad at me. She's like, "Can you make her get back in bed?" It's hard. And when you're a driven person, like you are very driven, I'm driven, it's really hard to sit still, but it is necessary. It is important. So if you're watching this, if anything that you take from this show today is that you can still be driven, but if you don't rest yourself and heal from injury, then there's nowhere you can drive to, right? Because then you're going to ruin yourself. So that's a great message. Okay, so you got injured. Here we are, your sophomore year. Did you have a backup plan of what you wanted to do? I mean, were you wanting to be a phys ed teacher? Were you wanting to go pro? Kind of what
Yeah.
was your mindset and what
I
happened?
I knew I didn't want to go pro. I knew in my heart that college was as far as I'd ever play. Number one, I wasn't that skilled. I wasn't some, like prodigy or anything. I had work ethic. Being from Indiana and basketball being the thing, I had
Yeah.
work ethic and I loved to play. But wasn't going to go beyond that. But I knew I wanted to be a coach. So it was my goal to graduate and become a PE and health teacher, which I did, and be a varsity level coach, which I did. And it was great, but at the same time, it was just it was never the same after getting hurt. And even playing with the girls when I was a coach, I would jump in games with them, still not the same athlete. And so the like I kind of keep going back to the identity crisis of it all, because I struggled with like confidence a little bit, and no one would ever guess that, but I knew that I wasn't my full self. And so it was this weird and very slow and subtle deterioration of my self-confidence and self-worth. Like,
Mm.
can I keep up? Am I good enough? And I didn't go for certain goals or things that I wanted because of it. And so I think that it's so subtle that we don't know when that's happening to us until it's too late. And we're really far from who we know ourselves to be.
That's right. That's why you hear all the time, especially the NFL players, they're told, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Get your
Mhm.
education behind it, because you get that injury and you're done. Then
Yeah.
what? Then what happens next?
Yeah.
So, all right. So you went ahead and got through school. You struggled with learning who Abigail was again,
Mm.
not being the team member, not being at practices all the time, not having your social life around your basketball schedule, which, we all understand what that's like. When we have a passion for something, we put our whole life around it. So when that's gone, it's like a huge void. What did you find to put in that void? What did you
Ooh,
replace it with?
that is a very good question. So, um, the answer is a man,
A man.
right? Like
Okay.
relationship. And I I married my college sweetheart, which, was what I expected to do. Not that I went to college to meet somebody, but that's always, that's a goal, that's a hope. You don't
Yeah.
know where you'll meet them, but in graduating, I kind of just like moved on with life. Like basketball was over. I was actually kind of relieved. I didn't have to cause any more bodily pain. But then I just moved right into teaching, and I moved into marriage, and that was just the way that kind of flowed, right? And so the real you asked about finding out who Abigail is. I didn't find out who Abigail was post injury, post college basketball. It was after divorce that I actually had to find out who Abigail was, right? Because I still tied my identity into then relationship, which was a very easy way not to have to do much introspection or internal work. And so I felt it was like, to me, I would call it more like distraction. I think that relationships are great. I think they're healthy. But I think if we don't know ourselves, it's hard to get into a relationship that's truly aligned with us. And I was more infatuated with the idea of being in a relationship than being in a relationship I was with someone I was compatible with. And that was aligned for the long haul.
Right. I get that. There's a lot of people out there that are in love with being in love. Yeah.
Yes.
In love with being in love. And it's sad.
Yeah.
I've searched for love, and I mean, I thought I found love with my drug dealer, and
Yeah.
I married him. I mean, thank God I've got my son out of it. Really, the one positive thing that came from that whole destructive, abusive relationship. But that's why it's so important and to find ourselves and like discover who we are, know our wants, know our needs before joining with someone else. Because what ends up happening is our wants and needs get lost, and they become meshed and entwined with someone else's wants and needs. And then before you know it, you don't even have your own path anymore. I'm not saying that, I know that when you get married, you come together and have one path together, but individually, you still should have goals, ambitions, and things. So I get what you're saying. I get that.
Yeah.
So when did the debt start piling up? Because I know you talked about drowning in the debt. So when did that start piling up?
Yeah. Well, definitely we can take it back to college because graduated with $50,000 of college debt, right? I chose to go to a Catholic college so I could play basketball, so I could get the exact degree I wanted. And, I remember, I kind of want to short or like skip a step for a second is I remember talking to my grandfather about it and being real bummed out about how much debt I had. And he's like, well, you chose to go to a Catholic college. You chose to this, that, and the other. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did. I sure did. And the thing was though, it shifted for me because I said, well, I would do it all over again, And so I had to kind of take ownership for that. But like I said, I was skipping ahead a little bit. The debt, I graduated with it and then I went straight into teaching. It got dark at that time because I had more debt than my annual salary.
Yeah.
And that freaked me out. I was like, this is endless. There's no end. I don't know how I'll ever do this. And so that weight, that anxiety, it was the worst time of my anxiety was, graduating thinking, can I get a job? It's such a competitive market for teachers. The years that I was graduating we were having 200 and 300 people apply for positions. It was nuts. And so I just remember worrying about that. And luckily, right out of school, I got a job at a charter school. And then the following year, I ended up at my high school, which was my ultimate dream.
Cool. That's
That
cool.
was really cool, but the debt didn't stop and the income didn't grow. And so I ended up eventually leaving teaching to start gym management. So I worked with a corporation, managed corporate gyms for years, and it was better. I had more income, so that was like like a small breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because then we were getting married and here comes more debt piling in, right? Because
Yeah.
the wedding industry, you got to have the big wedding and and I was falling face first into it. And so more debt coming along. And then I started looking at like side hustles. So I started with a MLM company, and that's where like I've always had a very entrepreneurial spirit. I had never harnessed the business side of it. So I was investing and investing and investing and investing and investing and never making that money back. Right. And always telling myself, oh, it'll come back around. It'll come back around. Well, college, wedding, investing in business, investing in self-development. I then started a coach training program. Like it got heavy.
Yeah.
And I was waking up out of my sleep short of breath, just like how I'm going to hit a bill. Right. And so it got real heavy for a long time until I started to shift that because I couldn't function. And trying to be an entrepreneur after starting my coach training program, I was trying to not only teach people what life coaching is and acquire clients, but also going through my own transformation post-divorce, heavy in debt, figuring myself out, relocating, job transfers. Like life just felt like a complete hurricane at that time.
And most of your debt you're referring to is, I take it from student loans, correct?
Yeah,
And
well, student loans, there was a little bit of like natural consumer debt, like having a car and stuff.
Yeah.
But, and then when I started to invest in business growth, the
Right.
front end of that, I like talking about the front end of starting a business because people think they're going to open the doors and be a millionaire. And that's not the story all the time.
No, it's not. And we can get to that in just a minute, but let me go back to the student debt because it's a travesty the way this system is. It is because you never get ahead. I still am paying on student loan. I've had my career 23 years and I'm still paying on it. Of course, 10 years of it, I was on drugs and in prison. So all that time I had a deferment and I was thinking, oh, I have a deferment, but didn't realize the interest was accruing the whole time. So it's like a never ending story. I feel like you can just never get ahead on that ever. It's the most hard. I just encourage anyone out there that's like going to school, sell something, get a side hustle, do something before you take out a student loan because it's going to be so hard to ever pay that off. It really is. Okay, so let's go back. So you said this was a really dark time. Debt was piling up all around you. You're searching for your own identity. Now you're getting married, trying to, you're using a relationship to kind of fill that void. Did you ever in any of that time turn to anything like gambling, eating, drinking, drugs? Was there any kind of abuse? I mean, did you turn to anything else or did you just kind of get through it?
No, it was really divorce that tipped the scale on that because sure I could deal with the debt because I love being in love, right? Like
Mhm.
it was something I could numb out on, right? Like just having a good relationship. And so after that, when I didn't have a relationship and I felt really alone and I had debt and I felt rejected and I felt like a failure, I turned to self-medicating. I used marijuana, I was drinking too much alcohol and really numbing out on that. And so that became my coping mechanism and it was a solid 3 to 4 months where I was heavy on that. And it didn't, I'm so grateful it didn't take me to a rock bottom where I did any ruining of my life, like none of that. But I was not here.
Yeah.
And I remember I was going through my coaching program at the same time. And I was not necessarily, it wasn't about attaining clients, it was about me actually finding me. And the way that, I mentioned this in my own content is like I had already signed up for this coach program 5 months prior to it starting. And 3 days before it started is when my husband asked for a divorce.
Ah,
And it rocked my world. And so that's when I started coping with drugs and alcohol. And so my coaching colleagues were like, do you want to go to therapy? Like, have you ever considered therapy or recovery? And I'm like, I just didn't grow up in that culture. It wasn't normalized to go to therapy. So I never considered it. Right. I'm like, I'm
mhm.
in coaching. This can work. This is it. And it wasn't. So I was definitely using self-medicating for 3 or 4 months before I finally put my hands up. And I'm like, the pain got too immense. Um, I remember I was working 3 jobs. I was working 3 jobs just to distract myself. I didn't want to feel. And then I was using substances and I was, and I think I like at that point, I then started trying to rebound date. That was not good. That is not a good idea. Don't do that. And so that storm the winds were whipping too hard where I just put my hands up. I'm like, I don't feel okay. I don't want to feel this way. And I started going to therapy and that's when it started to shift. But it was really, I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to go out. I had no energy.
It sounds
And
like depression.
yeah. Oh, hey, thanks.
Yeah.
I remember going to therapy and she's like, you're OCD, ADHD, manic. Like, and I'm like, yeah, all right. And I don't want medication. I want to get off the way that I'm self-medicating and spiraling. And so I remember like, help me do this internal work, help me think through my thoughts, help me feel my feelings. And so I was depressed and it was sad. Um, and again, it caused another identity crisis. Who am I if I'm not girlfriend or fiance or wife? Who am I if I'm not athlete? Who am I if I'm not teacher? Everything I knew and expected out of life was just unraveling. And it
Well,
was scary.
who are any of us? I mean, those things define us. Like those things are the sprinkles of the seasoning on the chicken, right? Those eat the garlic, the pepper, the nature seasoning, whatever it is, those are those things that flavor us up.
Yeah.
So all of us have to ask ourselves, who are we without that? Who are we without speaking? Who are we without nuclear medicine? Who are we without being a mom?
Yeah.
So many of us switch our gears when we become moms into that's what we are. We're a mom. By gosh, we're a mom, and that's enough,
Yeah.
and that's it. And then our kids grow up and we get the empty nest syndrome, and we're like, oh, what else are we?
Yeah.
What are we now? Now we're
Yeah.
grandma. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's normal, but you said something earlier. You said it was about me finding me. Just real
Mhm.
quickly, I want you to tell us, tell the audience, give us a tip on how you can begin that journey of us finding us. Like, what's the first step in that?
Yeah. Uh, I have two quick answers, which is one, you get support. You don't know what you don't know. You can't see what you can't see. And if you could see it, you'd see it. So having a powerful person to reflect who you are, I call myself a clarity coach because the first thing I ask, who are you?
Mm-hmm. We
And
don't
nobody
know.
And then the next question is, what do you want? Right? I don't take anybody any farther in their transformation until they can answer those two questions, right? So that's the first thing is you got to be able to answer who are you and what do you want? Because who you think you are is based on how you were raised and all the things. And then what you think you want is based on what you've seen and what you've been shown as the example of success. And you probably don't have the same definition of success as the society that you grew up in. Right. And so
Yeah.
you got to find those, dig in on those two questions is a good place to start, and introspection.
Yeah, that's tough. And it's hard because a lot of times what we think we want is just what we hear other people telling us what they think we should be. Right.
Yes.
And I remember when I first got my very first coach, which was actually awarded to me, someone gifted him to me when they learned about my book. They wanted that book to come out so badly, they gifted me a coach. And he told me, it's all about you have to know why you want the book out. Is it just emotional vomit to get it off your chest, or are you wanting to accomplish something with it? And that part, the very, very beginning of this whole journey for me about becoming an author, becoming a speaker, that was the hardest part, was what is your why? What's the purpose? What is your actual message? What are you trying to accomplish with the message? To sit down, like you think you've got it all in your head, but when you're asked, like I'm doing this thing with Dom Fawcett right now called Speaker 33.
Yeah.
Do you know Dom?
I do.
Okay,
He's been on the podcast. I love Dom. He's
yes,
great.
I love Dom too. But he had us do this whole worksheet about, putting all of our answers down with our business. And it was like, oh my gosh, here I am. And I still don't have clarity. Like it took me hours to try to put it on paper. You realize we never really, I still don't have it all planned out just right, and of course I struggle with that whole perfectionism thing too. But yeah, that whole thing. And then the introspection, I love that. I just put that in the comments for everyone to see.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the point in the show where we're going to turn it now. Abby, I'd like for you to think about a time in your life that was, I know you shared some dark times. You said your sophomore year was pretty dark for you. But really tap your emotions, your vulnerabilities, and think of a time that, a really dark place that maybe the audience can gain some knowledge and some wisdom from you on, that you're daring to share with us. And I'm going to do a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you to share that. And then we're going to talk about how you've climbed out of all that and where you are today, and how you can help other people get to where you are too. Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Today's show is sponsored by Simple Changes from Wanda Reynolds. Make a simple change today for a healthier tomorrow with products like Simply Satisfy, which aids in gut digestion and curbs your appetite. Mental wellness is directly related to gut health, so keep a happy gut with Simply Satisfy. Then there's Simply Soothe. It helps relax your sore muscles and it supports your overall joint health. Simply Start is made from 100% organic hemp oil. It promotes your calmness, supports sleep, and maintains healthy joints. Contact Wanda Reynolds today through Facebook Messenger or at scdso.com/live life wonderfully. Health provides simple solutions to whole body health. To get and stay healthy, we offer Somaderm HGH Gel. Would you like to sleep like a baby and wake up rested? Do you want to feel maximum benefits from physical exercise? Do you want to burn through that afternoon slump with energy to last well into the night? Well, you can. And you may also experience 25 other whole body improvements with the gel. It's effective, safe, FDA registered, and very affordable. Diane has immuno boosters and keto support products too. Contact Diane Chasik at lifesmilehealth.com or text lifestyle to 64600 today.
All right. Okay, Abby, go ahead and share with us that vulnerable time in your life that might have been a pivot or just might have been a really low place that you refer back to sometimes when you think you've really got it bad today.
Oh, I like the way you just framed that too. When you think you got it bad today, you don't.
About what it used to be like.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about the debt, and I think that's for me. It's not that it never drove me to, I've never been suicidal. I've never been gotten to a place where I don't want to necessarily be here. but I want to share the way that I understand that the way that the human psyche works and how you can seem fine on the outside and it ain't all right. And that people are not willing to admit that they need help. And that's how it got really dark for me. Was same thing where my coach colleagues, I was in a program where people were tapped into me on a weekly basis so they could feel me out. But as I was growing on my own, when I started to venture out to grow my business, right, to build a brand, to do all this, and I was making those front end investments of either coaching or programs or services or just building my stuff, right? Like to print a book, to get a podcast, to produce a podcast. And it was probably about year 2 of my business where I was in the most debt ever. And it was very scary. Again, talking about waking up out of my sleep, wondering how I'm going to pay a bill. And it really got the most dark for me when I knew it was very gas or groceries, right? And I knew I could not have a mistake. I could not have an emergency. I couldn't have a car breakdown. I was out of options. And when you asked about, oh, most of your debt is student debt, right? Like, yes. But then when I started to try to continue to invest and still grow the business and hold the faith, that was the biggest dynamic about why it felt so dark, is because I'm like, I believe in this. I'm so confused about how I can believe in something so deeply, so fully with all of my being, and yet it not be taking off. And that's why I love to speak into this concept, because you have to be willing to not make a cent for years on a dream and hold the vision and go through some of that stuff and those challenges. And so I knew when I was at that point where I had then been starting to live off of credit cards, like if I couldn't afford it that week, I was going to buy groceries on a credit card, like that. It got there. And I'm not afraid to share that, because I know that on a phone, on a one-on-one call, someone's going to tell me that truth about themselves. And so I trust that many of us are there, or with where we are in the world right now, to be sent home from work and have not have a month or 2 or 3 months of savings and wonder what you're going to do next week. That's a low, that's a pit. And that is scary. And like anybody who loves me, who might be watching this, would say, at any time you can call me. I'll give you the money you need. Like I could call my mom. Right. And pride and not wanting to be that person and not wanting to get in debt with people you love. You're already in debt with companies in school and the government. Like, I don't need to be in debt with people I love. And so it was this stuck. It was the most static place I ever felt, because I couldn't turn left, right, up, or down without feeling like everything was like dangerous, I would say, or threatening. And so it was just it was a freaky time. And then to still hold faith in the vision, it was such a weird dynamic, but you just keep going.
Yeah. You guys, I want you to type that in the comments. Type, keep going to get unstuck. Type that, keep going to get unstuck. So Abby knows that you're hearing what she's telling you. Okay. Type that in, keep going to get unstuck. And she's trying to tell us as entrepreneurs, when we want to do something, we have passion for something, we have purpose, that you have to be patient. You have to make an investment. You have to be patient with it to get the return on the investment. Right.
Totally. And when we're great, we are so gifted. Every human comes with a gift, a purpose, and a passion. And that's from the heart. But that doesn't mean we are business people. And so I had the tide turned for me when I said, the same way, like when I started going to therapy, right, was I'm not all right. I had to financially admit I'm not all right. And it turned the tide from there. So then I got a bookkeeper, and I got more training, and I did more business training than coach training. And then it started to shift, and I have tripled, quadrupled my business in the last 2 years. It's been phenomenal.
So, okay. So your business, so you're a clarity coach. You do one-on-one coaching. You're an author. Got your 3rd book coming out on Thanksgiving. You're a motivational speaker. You also have a podcast. So what is your advice to someone that might be watching that's thinking that they may want to try entrepreneurship? Like, what's your first step? Because like I said earlier, with me jumping into this arena new, I thought I knew what I wanted, but it's so overwhelming to try to figure it all out. Like, do I need an LLC? Do I not? What do I do? How do I do it? Do I need a name? What name do I put it all under? Does it all fall under one name? Is it all separate? Do I need one website, 5 website? It's like, So like, what's the a simple piece of advice you can give to someone that's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Hire a coach who is exactly where you want to be.
Perfect advice.
Period.
Because I was cheap. I didn't want to pay anybody to do something that I could do my daggum self, you know. But I have since learned. Well, I have a full-time career too, working 60 hours a week. So now I appreciate virtual assistants. I appreciate graphic designers. Before I was like, I'm not paying that. I'll just do it. I don't have time. I can't. So I am just now in the last 3 months appreciating and learning their value and spending money to get there. That's why they're like, I wouldn't want you to go inject me for a nuclear medicine scan because it's not what you do, right?
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
So I'm appreciating that. So that's great advice. So Abigail's saying, if you want to do entrepreneurship, find someone in that space that's doing the things you want to do, that has the same type of integrity you have, and then seek them out to coach you and just duplicate what they've done and let them help you do it as well, right?
Yeah. And I want to add one thought to that, because when we want to do entrepreneur, like you said, there's a lot of tasks. There's a lot of things to do. You can run 100 miles in the wrong direction simply because you aren't willing to put a little bit of money into getting guidance. Yeah. I will never be more grateful than to my publisher, who has saved me thousands of dollars, because she says, you don't want to print 2,000 books. You want to print 500 right now, and you want to sell those and you want to make that money. You know what I mean? Like, someone who is experienced in your area will save you thousands of dollars. The maybe 3,000 to 5,000 that you invest with them is you can save that by not making 100 mistakes trying to figure it out yourself and do it all on your own. Like, we're not meant to do things alone like that.
One thing I want to add to that, though, because my very first thing, like I said, my first coach was a gift to me. I did keep him on hire after the initial gift was paid, bought out. But the first person I hired to help me get my book out there was one of those all-in-one type. He was going to help me publish my book, help me get my messaging, help me do this, help me do this. And he was a little bit shysty, and he had come as a referral from one person I knew. But I didn't do my due diligence, and I didn't check his references, my own, like me picking up the phone and calling people. Right. And I actually lost money with him. I had to pull away from him. He was trying to get me to publish my book and say I was an award-winning author. I'd never even released a book. And I said, I'm not an award-winning author. He said, I'm giving you an award. You're going to be. Well, just because you make some little plexiglass award doesn't make me an award. Like, that was not, he didn't align with my integrity. Maybe people do that out there, not the way I wanted. So what you said about find the person in the space that you want to be in all areas, and not just success, but their integrity, everything. It's important to find the right person, that can work with you too. Yeah. All right. Let's see. What does Amy say? Success leaves
clues. Yes.
Yeah. Success leaves clues. That's good. Okay. So let's talk about so you've got your podcast. And so do you accept guests? Like, if anyone wanted to be a guest on how do they reach you? Is that link you dropped up here earlier?
Yeah. So on heartsunleashed.com, there is a tab called apply, and you can fill out an application to be on the podcast. There's just a guest questionnaire. We have different scheduling seasons, so you always can apply. And then we start reaching out whenever we're ready to start scheduling some peeps.
So Amy, Carol, Sherry McQueen, I know who you are. I see you in here hiding. Jill Weeks, I see you all in here. Maybe you should consider, if you're not ready to come out on video and dare to share with me, maybe you would consider getting on Abigail's podcast. It's pretty well known. She gets lots and lots and lots of viewership, not viewership, but listenership, I guess it's called.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so reach out to her. And then if someone's interested in coaching with you, is that the other link that you provided?
Yep,
Your
abigailgaza.com. Thank you. Yeah. I wanted to share. So I do one-on-one coaching. I also do a phenomenal group coaching program called the Hearts Unleashed Book Club. And I call it a book club, but it's a 6-week group coaching program. It comes with the book and you can join, and we do have co-ed ones, but I really call it a sisterhood of support for people who are really looking to give up people pleasing in order to create a life that pleases them. That's what my first book, Giving Up, the Memoir of a Quitter. That's what it's all about, is giving up people pleasing. And then, so there's lots of different options, but if they surf around on abigailgaza.com, there's lots of free resources and resources they can buy and check in on.
Okay. So giving up, the Memoirs of a Quitter.
Yeah.
I love that name.
Yeah.
I like the other name you had too. Alchemizing
Judgment.
Judgment. I don't have on my glasses. I love that name as well. That's the book coming out Thanksgiving Day, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, it's
all right.
Beautiful.
So no, that's the wrong thing. Sorry. Giving up, the Memoir of a Quitter. And that is, what is that now? That's the second book?
That's my first book. That is my very first book. And it's really about transformation. So I call it a memoir disguised, a self-help book disguised as a memoir, because it's really for the reader to start their own introspection and transformation. So it's a really good one.
Okay. So give me an example on the women's support. Well, you said it's really, you like to call it a women's sisterhood of support group. Give me an example of some of the topics, some of the things that the group talks about and the types of support that's available.
Yeah, thank you. So I call it a book club because your first book club that you'll do, we actually read Giving Up, the Memoir of a Quitter. And so we read the 4 parts of the book. And very quickly, the first part is about never quitting anything. I was raised that winners never quit and quitters are losers. And so I did, like with basketball, I didn't quit and I injured myself further. So I teach healthy quitting in this book club.
Healthy quitting.
Yep. And I call it conceptual quitting, meaning quitting people pleasing, quitting the negative story you have about yourself, quitting the negative inner dialogue or beating yourself up or suffering all alone. So we talk a lot about that. And that's why I think it's so powerful for women, because we try to be really strong and independent when in fact we would be better supported and supporting each other. And then the last part of this book is about accepting and choosing. So for the first 4 weeks, we are shedding, letting go. And it's all about releasing. But then the last part of the book is about accepting who you really are, owning who you really are and your gifts and your passion and allowing that. So again, back to the company, Hearts Unleashed, is allowing you to be your fullest self.
So you kind of help in a group setting, you kind of help, because once you've shed, you still don't know who you are under there, right? Because all you've done is taken off the outer layers. Yeah. So do you help people kind of do a self-discovery, if you will?
Totally. It's called a self-discovery session. Yeah. So it's really about when you start to peel back those layers, you start to get to the core. And I like to use the visual, like if this is the core of who you are, here's your infancy, here's adolescence, here's middle school, high school, relationships, college, jobs, and we get stuffed down there. And so for 6 weeks, we're just peeling back layers. And then naturally we start to rise back up. And it's like, oh, this is who I am. And we go, I never did that thing I wanted to do. I forgot I do love myself. I might be kind of awesome. Right. And so we start self-love, self-acceptance, self-celebration. All of that naturally comes when we start to peel back those layers.
That's beautiful. It's like our little voices get lost. They become so diminished and so insignificant and unimportant. And, I love to watch, especially women, anyone, but especially women, find their empowerment. I just love it. I don't know if you knew this or not, but right before COVID had all started, I had just started organizing my first retreat. It's called Right to Ignite Women's Empowerment Retreat. And so my whole vision for that is all around writing, because writing is absolutely what saved my life. And I believe it's a strong, strong tool. But I have a whole retreat set up ready to go, since we can become intimate again and get that close bond.
Yes.
All around that self-discovery, but through writing.
Yeah.
So I love empowerment. I love watching it happen. I love seeing strong women. And I think you're a great example of a strong woman. I think you have a lot of great things going for you. You're a go-getter. And I like what you said about healthy quitting, conceptual quitting, because I think a lot of times we don't know when to say no, not so much to quit, but just to not take on something, like not to quit it, but like fill up our plate, to say no and not fill up our plate so much. I struggle with that a lot. And I think one of my coaches told me, when I fill up my plate so full, it forces me to stay focused on everyone but myself, because I was trying to hide from myself. What I really needed to do was take those things off the plate and start looking at myself and discovering my little voice inside. So that's beautiful. I love the way you put that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right. So yeah. All right. So any last minute advice you want to share, or any last comments or anything you want to give out to the audience?
Yeah, well, first off, I see all these comments coming in, and I just want to say thank you to the participants who've been on live and whoever will join the replay. And you've been asking about that book club and everything. We do have 3 starting in the next couple weeks. So if you do go to abigailgaz.com on the shop tab, you'll see the ones that are coming up, and you can register for those. Also, too, I think it's a really important time. So I said I'm emotional intelligence expert. That's what I'm committed to, people having emotional intelligence, because then we can all be our best selves. And something on abigailgaz.com, I've been giving away my quarantine toolkit. I think this is a time of I think this is a time of awakening for people. And so it's a whole self-study about the 8 pillars of empowerment, how to live empowered no matter what the circumstances are. And so I want to give that to the audience, say thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here. And, tips, any tip, or just like that last word of advice is every answer to all of it is self-love. If you love yourself, you will always be acting in alignment with what's true to you and what serves the highest and best of yourself and the collective of humanity in the world.
Is it wrong for me to say, and I'm just going to be transparent for a minute here.
Sure.
When you said quarantine toolkit, literally the first thing in my head, I wonder if there's chocolate.
There can be.
And that's where I'm in my life with my food addiction. So, but hey, I promise you, I'm probably not the only one out there that's alone in this. So I'm not alone in this, I'm sure. Yeah. All right. So that's amazing. And how do we get that toolkit again? Tell us one more time how to get that.
Right to abigailgaz.com. I put it right front and center. When you go, you'll see it. Just scroll down a little bit and it's on there. And then there's also a coupon code to save $900 if you do want to buy the digital course. But it's $97. It's $97 for as long as this quarantine's going on. I'd much rather have people develop their emotional intelligence than make a buck. Like it's for people to really start to transform their lives when they have an opportunity to do so.
Wow. So your course is running for $97. That's amazing.
Yeah,
awesome.
I know. Go get it while it's hot.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, yes. Robert Brooker, thank you for joining. I love that you're here every show. It just makes me all warm and fuzzy inside to see you showing up. He's in Canada, so let's welcome him into the show. Did you say chocolate? I said chocolate, Robert. I did. She said quarantine toolkit. A lot of hurricanes where I live down in the South, and we always have our hurricane survival kit. And the first thing I get is a big bar of Hershey's almond chocolate bar.
There you go. That'll work.
If I'm going to be stranded, I'm going to have some chocolate, because that's when I'm stressed, I don't need it. When I'm stressed, I've convinced myself I need chocolate. Right. So yeah. Oh, good. Amy said she's in. So you're going to be hearing from her. That's awesome.
That's great.
All right. Well, Abby, I'm going to have to say goodbye to you. It went by really, really quickly. Thank you for sharing all of your adversity about, the identity crisis, mainly going through your torn ACL, your collegiate athlete dreams being shattered, all that stuff. I can't thank you enough for being transparent, for stepping up to be that one. Thank you for that, because I think it encourages others to do the same.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. We'll get you back on next year and do a check with you. Okay.
Woo. Yeah. Awesome.
All right,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Good luck with your book and Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
All right. All right, you guys, that was Abigail. Check out her podcast, Hearts Unleashed. All her things are dropped at the beginning of the comments, so you can be able to see where to go to get it. I think it's just heartsunleashed.com. Yeah, it is heartsunleashed.com. She's been doing it for a while. She's got some amazing episodes on there. Just take a listen to some of those. Support her any way you can. Take a look at our sponsors, Simple Changes and Life Smile Health. Check them out as well, and do some inquiries and get to know their products as well. I thank you so much for being here. I can't stress enough to you how important transparency is going to be. I feel it is a game changer in the world, a game changer. Imagine a world where you can be free to say who you are, where you can not only discover who you are, but then you can be proud to be that person, not have to worry about social guidelines, not have to worry about stigmas, not have to worry about perceptions, how we think, other people pleasing, but just to be who we are. I mean, I'm kind of goofy. I'm a little comical, I'm not a real serious person. And I love that about me. And I don't want to change that, but I certainly don't want to have to be people pleasing and succumb to being this pristine person that's just not me. We're all different. We're all made up different. And I want us to feel free to be transparent and be who we are. And to discover the freedom that gives us. So that's what this is all about. Don't forget, if you want to be a guest on the show, it's really easy. You're just going to email guest to Mistie Layne at mistielayne.com. And we are here every Tuesday and Thursday night at 6 p.m. Central. And I can't wait to see you back here again on Tuesday. I believe my guest Tuesday will be Lauren Michaels Harris. My coach, Lauren Michaels Harris, will be here. All right, you guys. Love you all. Until next Tuesday, you all have a blessed day. Thank you.